you think of when you hear the words debt ceiling?
You talking about with the freezing of the park and stuff?
Actually, I'm not 100% sure what all that entails.
A pretty common answer from folks we met on Rock Hill's Main Street. Here's Winthrop University's economics professor, Dr. Laura Ulrich.
Okay, so the debt ceiling is a limit to how much debt can be issued by the federal government. Some people don't realize that every time we spend more than $1 than we pull in revenue, the government issues a bond to pay for that.
On October 17th, we will hit that debt limit. Lawmakers are currently looking at a deal to raise the debt ceiling for 6 weeks, a short-term solution.
It's like, okay, are we going to increase the amount of money we're going to put on our credit card this time? No, actually, what we do is we pay our credit card off every month.
According to a recent poll by Fox News, most folks agree. In fact, 58% said we should not raise the debt ceiling. But what would that do?
It would be like if every day you spend $30, but you only make $25. So every day you're putting $5 on a credit card. And the next day, you've already obligated yourself to spend $30, but you only have $25 to spend. So if you are supposed to pay your rent, or if you're supposed to pay back a family member, or you're supposed to pay for your child's daycare or whatever, you no longer have the ability to do that because you don't have that credit card to make up the difference.
Ulrich says the debt ceiling has been raised 79 times since 1940. If Congress votes not to raise the limit, she says it will be the first time in our nation's history.
On October 18th, the federal government has bills to pay. Those come in the form of Social Security payments, veterans payments, electricity, everything that the federal government spends money on a daily basis. So every day in the U.S., because we run a deficit, we don't bring in enough tax revenue to meet those obligations.
Obligations lawmakers agreed to last year when they passed the budget. If lawmakers vote not to raise the debt ceiling, economists say we will drop into an immediate recession.
We borrow about 5% of GDP every year. And GDP, gross domestic product, most people learn about that in school at some point. GDP is how we measure whether or not we're in a recession. So if we had a 5% dip in GDP, that would send us into a very significant recession.
It would also mess up our credit rating as a country.
So it's just like an individual. If you might have a really good interest rate on your credit card, but if you missed a couple payments, they're going to jack your interest rate up because you're not as trustworthy of a borrower as you were when you were making your payments. It's the exact same thing. So for the federal government to default on bonds is a very, very scary possibility, because if that happens, then our interest rate going forward would be much higher. So what that actually does is it would significantly increase spending.
A result, she says, would either not allow us to pay our obligations or force us to raise taxes. Caroline Fountain, Fox 46, Carolinas.